everyone, welcome to Pie's Kitchen. So today's recipe came out of my desire to find a quick and healthy grab and go kind of breakfast. Because usually when I'm rushing out of the house, I end up at the coffee shop across the street and there's rarely anything that's both healthy and delicious. So I came across these muffins and I call them Popeye muffins because they are loaded with spinach. But if you close your eyes and ate it, you would never know. They're so yummy. And so what I do is I stick them in the freezer, and when I need to get out of the house quick, I throw them in the microwave for 30 seconds and off I go. And Adam actually loves these and he insisted that I make a video for this recipe. So if you like them, you can thank him for that. Let's get started. Super easy recipe. So let's deal with the dry ingredients first. I've got here some all-purpose flour and some wheat germ. And wheat germ you can just buy at the grocery store in the baking section. It's basically the healthy part of the wheat kernel. Now you could just use whole wheat flour, but I actually prefer the flavor and the texture when I use white flour and then just add the wheat germ. Now the wheat germ I toasted a little bit in a pan. I'll include instructions in the written portion. That's an optional step, but I think adds a nice nutty flavor to this. Okay, now I'm gonna add some cinnamon for some extra flavor. You don't have to, I mean, you can really flavor this muffin however you'd like. Some leavening, I've got baking powder and baking soda, which I'm gonna sift into this because I have had in the past little lumps of baking soda. Like baking soda always has tiny little lumps in it, right? And I got that in a bite of something I had baked and it was awful. Baking soda is gross. Now, a little bit of salt and just whisk everything together. The smell of cinnamon. There's something about cinnamon and breakfast. They're like a match made in heaven. And that's it. That's the dry ingredients. Now let's deal with the wet ones. Wet ingredients are just as easy. We're gonna blitz everything in a blender, starting out with some yogurt. So I love yogurt in quick breads. Just adds a nice tang. I'm going to also add my eggs, some sugar, and as you see, there's only half a cup of sugar, which is not much at all for the batch that we're making. So this is not a super sweet recipe. And some butter. Now you could use a healthy oil, like if you like avocado oil or whatever, but you know what? A little butter doesn't hurt. Just FYI, when you are blending, always add your liquid ingredients first before your dry ingredients like the spinach, because if I put the spinach first at the very bottom and then put all the liquids on top, it has a harder time spinning the blade. Now I'm going to season this a little bit with some vanilla. And now the spinach. And it is, this whole thing of spinach is going into the blender. And in fact, I may not even be able to fit it all in at once. You can put even more spinach in. So this is 150 grams. You can even do 175. I've done that before. You get an even more intense green. Okay, let's just do that first and I'll put this after we've made some room. All right, let's put some more spinach in. Woohoo, look at that. Healthiness. A buttery spinach smoothie. That should probably taste good on its own. So now there's one more wet ingredient that you could have blended, but I prefer not to, and that's bananas. And this is why we can add less sugar, because we're adding some ripe bananas in it. And I like to mash it because then when you mash it, you get like the tiny little lumps of banana, and it's always a nice surprise when you see that. So I'm not gonna mash this overly finely. Thin out the banana with the green liquid a little bit. It just makes the banana a little easier to mix into the dry ingredients. And I think this just looks really awesome. Would be great for St. Patrick's Day. Okay, so now we put the wet into the dry and it's pretty much done. Into the middle. The banana. I'll give this a quick mix. Now, of course, like with any muffin recipe, you do not want to overmix this. However, because we added the wheat germ there, it's a little more forgiving because the wheat germ will act like little blades and it prevents overdevelopment of gluten, so you won't get those big holes that you would if it were a regular white flour only muffin. All right, so now that it's sort of mixed, but not really, I'm gonna add my add-ins, which is my dried fruit and nut. So I love things in my muffin. I don't like muffins that's got like one texture, so I'm going to add some toasted pecans. This came in pieces already. You can add walnuts or any kind of nuts that you like. And also I'm gonna add some dried cherries. And I like cherries because they're quite tart and quite moist, but you can do chopped apricots, you can do dried blueberries, anything that you'd like. I'm gonna give these a big fold. See, I don't like to mix everything well before adding the little bits because then you end up over mixing it by the time you mix in the little bits. I'm scraping the bottom to make sure I don't have any dry pockets of flour. Look how cool this looks. All right, so I've got my muffin pans and muffin liners. Now I do like to use liners just because it makes removing and cleaning easier, but I like to get ones that are foil on the inside as opposed to just a paper one because these will not stick to the muffin. You know, if it's a paper lining, when you peel it, you get quite a bit of muffin stuck on the paper. Well, these won't do that. And it makes sure that these patterns stay nice and pretty because the foil won't let the grease sort of seep through. So I am using this disher here. This is a size 30. I'm gonna need about 1.5 for each muffin cup. So now I'm gonna garnish these with some sliced bananas. And I always like to put a little garnish on the muffin, especially when there's an ingredient you can't see. Just letting people know that, hey, there are bananas in here. And now to prevent the bananas from drying out in the oven, I'm just gonna brush them with a little bit of melted butter. Now, if you remember to not clean your butter bowl from earlier, there's usually enough just stuck around the bowl that you don't have to melt anymore. All right, and that's it. Now these are gonna go to a 375-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 20 minutes or until you put a toothpick in it and it comes out clean. Look at these. It smells so good right now. So as you can see, the bananas on top have been roasted in butter, so you can just imagine how good that's gonna be. So these are still a little hot. Oh, look at that. Look how that just peels right off and you don't get barely any muffin on the liner. This is why I love these foil liners so much. Let me show you the inside. Ooh, that's steaming. Look how moist and delicious that looks. You know what, this piece is good, but I want to try the one with banana on it. Oh, so good. This does not feel like it should be healthy, but as far as muffins go, can't get much better than that. The tartness from the cherries and the crunchiness from the pecans work together really well, and that banana. And you just cannot tell there's any vegetable of any sort in here at all. And so you've got kids and they don't like to eat vegetables. They might think this is a cool green muffin. So the recipe, as always, will be on pieskitchen.com. When you make it, I'd love to see it and send the photos to me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And I will see you next time for your next delicious adventure.